Hey guys, Justine here. I am looking at two of my most important journals at the moment, or books. This one is my planner. Needless to say, it is how I plan my life, and I pour so much into this so that I stay organized. And I even have like pages from old planners that I keep in here. So this is a very important book to me, and a very important book to kind of my day to day and being able to do it all. And then I have my other book that serves kind of as like my thought book. So this book is like an outpouring of my thoughts and trying to keep them organized um, so that I can be successful in my day to day, and I can remember kind of like where I'm headed and why I'm headed that way. So the purpose of this video is, I don't know if I'm going to end up posting it or not, but it is essentially um, somewhat of like an intro or a pilot to my podcast concept. I really wanted to kind of get down my thought process behind the podcast and kind of empty out my head pertaining to the podcast and what led me here, what the goal is, for anyone who's interested. And I guess I can start from childhood. And my entire life, I will start with the name Justine, and the meaning of that name being justice. So as a child, I really disliked my name because no one else had it. And it's so funny how we change, because now that's probably one of my favorite things about it. But I was named after Justine Bateman, who my mom loved a lot. And um, it meant justice. And I thought that that was so cool. And now that I'm older, I feel like realizing how much I have owned that name throughout the years. And it is such a testimony kind of like to who I am and who I've grown up to be, because as a child, I mean, I've wanted to be a lot of things in life, which makes it's somewhat of a blessing and a curse, because when you have so many things that you want to do in life, and when you feel like God has put so much on your heart, and I feel like it happens a lot with women, you you deal with the paradox of choice. You don't really know what direction to go in. And as a child, I one of the some of the things I've contemplated being are like law enforcement. Like I wanted to be a cop at one point, I think in like my teen years, and I really, really wanted to be a judge. And I knew that I had to be a lawyer prior to being a judge. And the reason I decided not to, I mean, I guess I had my bachelor's, so I could always pursue law if I wanted to. But the reason why I decided not to go into that field in that realm is because, unfortunately, I saw how corrupt it can be, and I wanted no part in a system that was corrupt. I did not want to be surrounded by people that were corrupt, um, and feel like the minority. And it's funny just how your own thoughts can take you from place to place. Um, for those who are just now getting to know me, I used to make these videos 10 years ago when I was a single parent, really struggling in some ways. My son was only a couple months old, and I was working in a salon. And I don't know, to be honest, I wish I wrote it down, because I do write down so much. I mean, these two books are like what I'm using now, but I have so many other books that I'm looking at right now on my bookshelf, of literally dreams and hopes and thoughts. And I don't know when that kind of came over me, that desire to make the videos, but I started making them. And the videos that I was making at that time were kind of like life, they were about relationships and parenting. And I'd have to go back to see like exactly what they were, some controversial topics, but mostly just life and free speech and being bold. And it's funny that after 10 years, I find myself in exactly the same place. And part of me struggled, maybe still a tiny bit with that, because it's like, if I followed through, a lot of you who are content creators know that this is something that you do. It's very rare to kind of go viral like out of nowhere. Like, people who have made a name for themselves on social media are, I think, averaging somewhere between 7 to 10 years of working behind the scenes. And it's like out of nowhere, you just kind of see them more, right? So one of the things that I wonder is, like, what would have happened if I just stuck with it? But I think by the grace of God, maybe I didn't, because I think about how I've changed as a person and how maybe some of my opinions and like the way that I word things changed. But yeah, I find myself back here. And a big part of the reason why I also fell away from social media as much as I was, 10 years ago, was meeting my husband. I, met my husband around 7 years ago, a little longer, and I was so protective of the new life that I was heading into, and so protective of the relationship. And after going through absolute hell on earth prior to that relationship in different ways, some of it done to me, some of it that I brought onto myself. I'm not blaming any individuals, but went through absolute hell, and I was just so adamant on protecting my privacy and protecting my family that we were building and protecting my just mental sanity, because the fact of the matter is that some people want to see you fail. Some people get joy out of the misery of others. It's such a real thing. And I've never been the person to act or feel like a victim, and I've never been the type of person that is like, oh, they're hating on me and they're jealous of me. But the reality is that there are some people that hate you and want to see you fail, and you don't even know it. But I, to get back to like the video making in that time of my life, I decided to go through and I deleted probably half of my followers, because they were either tied to my past, tied to people in my past. I didn't know them. Just because I didn't know them, I didn't want them in my business or talking about what my life looked like. So I went completely private. And it's just funny and ironic that here I am, though I still really value privacy in a lot of things, opening myself up back up to this world. So it's funny how that works. And I think for me, what really brought it home was the death of Charlie Kirk, the murder, assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I'm sure there's a couple of people that just rolled their eyes and whatever, but regardless of how you feel about him and how you felt about him, the fact of the matter is that this is someone who was just speaking, and you may not have liked what they said, he said. You may not like what a lot of people say online, but the fact of the matter is that they have every right to say it. There is no opinion more worthy of another to be spoken. We have freedom of speech given to us by God, and thankfully our laws still protect it here. But I kind of started asking myself, if someone's willing to lose their life, because I truly feel that he was willing and ready to lose his life, and he knew that that was a real big reality for him, because I don't think that you can be such a polarizing figure without acknowledging the fact that that could be a reality for you. A lot of these people who are very bold online on either side of the fence, and I hate that it's even come to two sides, because we're so much more nuanced than that, and I feel like that's so ignorant. But a lot of these people don't go anywhere without security, because they know that people hate them and people want to see them dead. And we have to be careful, because when we support the loss of a life because of an opinion, even if it's the polar opposite of what we think, the tables can always turn. The tables can always turn. So I think we had to be careful with the things that we say, or the things that we wish others actually, when it comes to their health and their like livelihood and their safety as it pertains to opinion. I've been the person for as long as I can remember, since kindergarten, that has said what other people were too afraid to say, and it's gotten me in trouble in school, it's gotten me in trouble with jobs. I've spoken out to bosses and management and teachers and principals, and not in rebellion, but in the voice of what's right. And I've not been one to ever been taken advantage of. And I've always had people try to stop me from saying certain things, or um, whatever, because of the outcome and what it may be. But it's funny because when you are the person who is outspoken, people will also piggyback on your words because they feel the same way, but they're just not bold enough to say it. So maybe it's not put on your heart to be as vocal as I am and as I'm going to be, but I will encourage you that if the only reason why you don't say certain things is because of the feedback you might get, just remember that there are people in this world, not just Charlie, but all over the world, that are willing to lose their lives for what they believe in. And if they're willing to lose their entire life, some of them are willing to lose their entire family, then how cowardly we must be in comparison that we can't like post or like or comment on something because of how someone may feel, especially if that person's a stranger or has nothing to do with your everyday life, because at the end of the day, realistically, that is the reality. If you're the kind of person who wants to say certain things and you feel like you can't because of backlash you might get, well, one, I'll say, not to be ignorant to the fact that yes, obviously, we were just talking about someone losing their life, and people do it all over the world. I mean, there are countries where you don't have religious freedom. If you don't bow down to a certain god, you're literally shot in the back of the head. And here in America, it's hard for us to fathom that because it's not our reality. But what is stopping that from ever being our reality? Are we that self-centered and ignorant to think that those things can never happen to us, that they can never come to America? I urge you to reconsider that reality as something that can very well and may very well be something that maybe we don't see in our lifetime, but our children might. And we have a responsibility to them to act boldly, not violently, not ignorantly, but boldly. If you are someone who is afraid to speak up, again, I understand why. But one thing that I've thought about, as being a believer, something that I think about is, if we can't say something now, what the heck are we doing in the future? If you can't even speak online because of what someone may say, or you can't say something in public, what will you do when persecution is at your doorstep? And maybe you're spared, but like I said, it is the next generation, okay? But also I urge you guys to, because I get a lot of messages, which I appreciate. So the way people speak to me in public versus how they speak to me one-on-one is different. And again, I understand that, and I'm not judging anyone for doing that. But I just urge you to consider, if it's on your heart, if you feel not everyone's meant to be this way, not everyone's meant to be super, I can't even say that because that's not true, but not everyone is created for the same purpose, right? And part of this whole thing is about purpose, but we each have a different role in life. We each have a different, there will never be another Justine or whoever else. And we each are here for a specific purpose, but I urge you to not ride anyone's coattails to freedom, because as great as it is to have people acknowledge what I'm doing and tell me that they appreciate it and that they think the same things, but they're too afraid to say it, it's unfair to always put that weight on someone else's back. And then it also, think about the amount of support that people feel. It's like representation matters, and that matters in more ways than one. It doesn't matter with just what you see, but also with what you hear. Sometimes it's nice to hear that you are actually surrounded by maybe more like-minded people than you thought were around you. One thing that I hope that I can always inspire people to do, if you don't agree with me and if we're polar opposites, that you at least know me to be civil no matter what we agree or disagree on. You know, I take pride in the fact that I can sit in a room with someone who is completely opposite of every single thing that I believe and stand for, but we will have a very respectful conversation, and in a lot of cases, even a friendship. I think sometimes we need to just remember that there are 7 billion people in this world, and the world does not revolve around us and our own opinions and our own problems. It's so much bigger than us. So I say all that to say that I welcome communication, and I hope that if nothing else, I can show you that if you're like-minded like me, you know, as we go along on this journey and I voice some opinions, that you're not alone, that I'm here too, and I feel the same way. And if you feel opposite of me, I hope you can at least respect the fact that I won't treat you any differently. And what you think and what you believe won't change how I view you as a person. The way that you act will change how I view you as a person. I think I've decided on some names for the podcast, and I think the main name is going to be Justine Means Justice. It just kind of came to me, and I was kind of questioning, you know, a little mean with Justine, because I didn't want to lead with meanness. But the reason why, so I have, it's going to be Justine Means Justice as a name, but then I'm going to have two kind of more like categories, subtopics, and one will be a little mean with Justine, and the other one will be the conversation edit. So what I want to do is a little mean with Justine will be probably some of my shorter videos that are just like things that are off the top of my head, things that are relevant, and you can like it, hate it, doesn't really matter to me. That's where the mean comes in, is that, you know, I sat with a friend and we had dinner recently and we were talking, and we went to high school together, and he was saying that I was mean, and I was like, I am? Like, I don't perceive myself to be mean. And then he kind of like retracted a little bit, was like, well, you're very like this. And I was like, firm? He's like, yes, firm. And it made me realize that like sometimes the two can be seen as like a synonym. So sometimes just being firm means that you're seen as mean, or being honest, or being vocal. Like, there are just so many things in this world that, and no offense to him, he knows I love him, but there's so many things that can be perceived as being mean. So I'm just going to own it, and you can see it for what it is, and you can like or dislike it. Again, it really doesn't matter. But just to kind of touch a little bit on where that name came from, is that, you know, I'm not afraid to be considered mean, in other words. It's not my intention. It's not, you know, where I'm coming from, but if that's how I'm perceived, I can sleep at night fine. And the other part of that is going to be the conversation edit, which will be videos that I sit and have like conversation interviews with other people. So I want that to be part of the podcast as well. Just a little bit of background for those of you like on the technical side of, you know, podcasting and stuff. I did go to school for public relations, and when I originally went to college, I was going for film. Film is like one of my loves. It always will be. If you know me, you know that I'm an esthetician and I'm a doula. I love gardening, and I love makeup, and I love clothes, and I love film. I have a knack, and I have a love and a passion for, I don't want to say looks, but aesthetics. And if you understand what that means, then you understand what that means. Again, if you don't, then it's okay to misconstrue what I'm saying. But I just have I have a love for aesthetics. So I was going to school for film when I went to school back when I was like 19 or 20 years old. I'm 35 now, so that was quite some time ago. And then I went back and I went for public relations, which is also very media heavy. I would say that half of my curriculum, if I would say more like 75 of my curriculum, was all things media, the history of media, script writing. I ended up writing a movie for one of my assignments. It's just very cinematography. So it's very visual heavy. And then I got my bachelor's in project management. So that's where kind of like the technical, organizational, multitasking part of me comes into play. So this is something that I not only feel that I was ushered into doing and born to do, but also something that I have learned on a technical and educational level. I mean, I've learned so many things, even about the psychology of the media and how it affects us, and which is why I choose not to engage, and why I kind of feel bad for people that I see engaging so violently and so viciously, because I know that deep down it is so closely linked to mental illness. You can't tell me otherwise, because I've read the scientific journals, I've done the research, I've taken the classes. It's not you being a social media like a warrior, you know, it's not you like causing change in this world. It's you feeding the pool of mental illness, and that's a fact that can be backed up by many, 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 many studies in every field. Like, it affects us more than we think to have negative interactions online. So that's why I will not engage, and that's why I will just ignore, and I will not allow people who have literal mental illness to make me feel away because I said something that they didn't like. I mean, it's really uh, an inner issue on their part that they need to work on. So that is where like the mean comes from, because I'll always say, like, I don't care to be perceived that way. Again, it's not my intention. It's, you know, everything I do, I try to do out of love. But if I'm perceived as being mean, I can live with it. And the reason why, I think another reason why, is because how many nice people do we know that aren't good people? I mean, every freaking psychopath, serial killer, murderer is often kind. I mean, how much does kindness really mean? Because a lot of the times kindness isn't real. It's a facade. It's a to some of us it comes naturally. To, I would say, a fraction of us it comes naturally, and some people are genuinely kind. But I think most kind interactions are induced by getting something out of it, right? Because I always laugh, because as someone who did like a large portion of their college education online, people are so nice on those interactions. Like, when you are part of, you know, conversations and discussions online, if you've ever done college online, you will not see anyone being mean to anyone ever. Like, I went to school online for like 4 years with hundreds of different people, if not, you know, close to a couple thousand, and I not once saw a mean interaction. You know, you can hate someone who's a Trump supporter, or you can hate someone that you consider liberal or feminist or bigoted or racist, but the fact of the matter is that when you are confronted with them face to face, or when there is money involved, or when your standing is involved, you act real nice real quick. So that just goes to show how kindness can be incentivized. Um, and I would rather just be authentic, and people can take it for what it is, however they take it. I think what's also so interesting about online interactions is that most of us do not know each other. Um, Chances are that maybe 10% of the people that even see this video know me in person. I'll be generous. Let's say 20% of the people that will watch this video, or most of my videos, don't know me in person. And if they have known me in person, they probably have not known me in years. So I just think it's kind of comical, that whole concept of like being an online, you know, justice warrior. It's a facade. And again, you know, you're talking to someone who studied media, and even like the origination of media, going back to when people were blessed enough to have a radio in their home. It is so like cultivated and intentional. Everything that we are fed is meant to provoke a certain something. and they are so successful, and it is so crazy to see them using the same method, different tools, right? Because it's switched from like radio to TV to iPhone and everything else in between. So the tool has changed, but the method is the same. And it's just sad to see. So this whole journey that I'm on is to keep it real, say what I want to say, exercise my rights as an individual, and connect with people, whether they feel the opposite or the same. I'm willing to connect as long as the conversations are respectful. I'm willing to have them with anyone. And if they're not, that's fine. You can comment too. It only helps me grow, but you're probably not going to get much out of me in return. I think we are more alike than we think. You know, one thing that really taught me the importance of getting to know others and having real conversations. My favorite way to have a conversation is one-on-one, in person. That's my favorite way, because I think that people change so much when it's just two people, when they don't have an audience, when they're face to face. I know that because I've been in the industry, the beauty industry, for 10 years. And the only demographic that can be checked off for everyone is that they're female. Even I've had a couple of guys throughout the years for different things, but I would say 98% of my clientele has been women. Some that I've been polar opposite of, some that I've been very similar to, and everything in between, different ages, stages, marital status, kids, no kids, all natural, all unnatural, but we communicate, and we're able to communicate, and we're able to be kind, and we're able to spend hours together, because rather than focusing on what is opposite about us or how we're different, I've always brought the attention to how it is so quick to look for how we can hate each other and how we can label each other and how we can think so small. Like, it's so small minded that we fail to try to understand each other and see where we're coming from. Because no matter how opposite you think you are with someone, if you just try to follow their life and try to have a conversation with them and truly understand them, most of the time you will find how you can get along and how you can relate and how you can build a relationship and understanding. I'm no stranger to that. I'm judged all the time. Sometimes it's for how I look or the things that I say. Thankfully, God has given me the boldness to not care. You know, I wonder what my life would look like if I cared more about people's opinions, and I'm really glad that I don't. But going back to purpose and reasoning, I would say the whole point of this and what I'm after is to connect with people who are like-minded, hopefully build a bridge with people who aren't, just have fun conversations. I'm already thinking about people that I want to have conversations with on different topics. I want to talk about life and marriage and being single and toxicity and parenting and faith, um, you know, pop culture. I want to talk about it all. I don't really, and aside from like getting too personal, because I do still honor privacy, and that is important to me, especially as it pertains to my 3 children and my husband. Obviously, I'll talk about it because it's a big part of my life, but I want to talk about it all. I'm curious to know like what kind of podcasts you guys are into and what kind of topics you guys are into. Um, yeah, I have a lot of really great, deep, hilarious, meaningful conversations in person with all sorts of different kinds of people. Um, so I guess I figure, why not bring that to even more people? And I guess my biggest aim is, again, to just build a bridge of common sense and logic and understanding. We already have enough hate. We already have enough drama. And again, someone's going to say, well, then why a little mean with Justine, or why, you know, controversial topics? Because that's a part of life. Because it's a part of life. Everything cannot be sugar coated. And again, the intention is not to divide and be mean. That's not the intention. But if you look online, find some of the nicest people that you can align, you'll still see the hate. People that are looking for hate will find it in anything. So I'm going to do what I want to do, and you're either going to deal with it or you're not. And either one's fine with me.